Modern-day versions of the Gospel of Luke have a staggering 10,000 more words than the same Gospel in the Sinai Bible. 6 of those words say of Jesus and was carried up into heaven. But this narrative does not appear in any of the oldest Gospels of Luke available today. Ancient versions do not verify modern-day accounts of an ascension of Jesus Christ, and this falsification clearly indicates an intention to deceive. Today, the Gospel of Luke is the longest of the canonical Gospels because it now includes the Great Insertion, an extraordinary 15th-century edition totaling around 8,500 words. The insertion of these forgeries into that Gospel bewilders modern Christian analysts, and of them the Church said, "The character of these passages makes it dangerous to draw inferences." Just as remarkable, the oldest Gospels of Luke omit all verses from 645 to 826, known in priesthood circles as the Great Omission, a total of 1,547 words. In today's versions, that hole has been plugged up with passages plagiarized from other Gospels. Dr. Tischendorf found that 3 paragraphs in newer versions of the Gospel of Luke's version of the Last Supper appeared in the 15th century. But the Church still passes its Gospels off as the unadulterated Word of God. As was the case with the New Testament, so also were damaging writings of early Church Fathers modified in centuries of copying, and many of their records were intentionally rewritten or suppressed. Adopting the decrees of the Council of Trent, the Church subsequently extended the process of erasure and ordered the preparation of a special list of specific information to be expunged from early Christian writings. In 1562, the Vatican established a special censoring office called Index Expurgatorius. Its purpose was to prohibit publication of erroneous passages of the early Church Fathers that carried statements opposing modern-day doctrine. When Vatican archivists came across genuine copies of the Fathers, they corrected them according to the Expurgatory Index. This church record provides researchers with grave doubts about the value of all patristic writings released to the public. Important for our story is the fact that the Encyclopaedia Biblica reveals that around 1,200 years of Christian history are unknown. Unfortunately, only few of the records of the Church prior to the year 1198 have been released. It was not by chance that, in that same year, Pope Innocent III suppressed all records of earlier church history by establishing the secret archives. Some 7.5 centuries later, and after spending some years in those archives, Professor Edmund S. Bordeaux wrote, "How the Great Pan Died." In a chapter titled "The Whole of Church History is Nothing But a Retroactive Fabrication," he said this, in part, "The Church antedated all her late works, some newly made, some revised, and some counterfeited, which contained the final expression of her history. Her technique was to make it appear that much later works written by church writers were composed a long time earlier, so that they might become evidence of the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd centuries." Supporting Professor Bordeaux's findings is the fact that in 1587, Pope Sixtus V established an official Vatican publishing division and said in his own words, "Church history will now be established. We shall seek to print our own account." Vatican records also reveal that Sixtus V spent 18 months of his life as Pope personally writing a new Bible.